Hello, hello, hello. My name's Elder, and welcome back to The Open Debate. If you're just tuning in for the first time, we welcome you into the community. Thank you for being here. This is the most independent underground media you will see on YouTube. How's it going there, Shadowrunner? Thanks for joining us in the chat. So, today we're talking about something that's actually pretty serious, and something that I guess I take to heart a little bit. Bullying. So, boy 14 fatally stabbed in front of his mother outside Hamilton School. This is a story that has been picked up by the Canadian media, but not heavily being spread around, really. You can't find too much being said about this, other than if you're looking for it. So I thought I'd bring it up to the community, see how everybody feels, and just outline this, because I feel as though it is actually a very serious story that needs to be brought to light. And so, from what I know so far, there's been a bit of information coming out. So Hamilton is a city close by to where I live that is very, let's call it sketchy. A lot of film productions are... a lot of films are produced there. They like to use it as a substitute to Detroit. And so, if that can be any sort of clarification as to what type of city it may be, here you go, right? And so, that's I don't know. So what I'm saying here is bullying. It's not something that I am fond of. It's not something that I promote, and it's not something that I think is okay in society, whether it be political bullying or bullying of the average sort, just constantly harassing somebody who doesn't want to be harassed. And therefore, this story resonates with me quite a bit. Bullying was not a huge thing in my town growing up. Of course, being black in a very predominantly white area has produced I guess what you could consider, I guess it could be bullying. It depends on how you look at it, but I was never harassed constantly each and every day and didn't have an escape. And things like this. So I'm going to bring up a story quick, and this is something that happened to me when I was in grade 11, I believe, grade 11 or 12. And so there was a kid in grade 9 at the time, and another kid in grade 10. And so essentially what happened was, this kid in grade 9, he was chubbier, he had curly hair, and he smelled bad, okay? This is a fact for sure. He definitely smelled bad. I remember that being a defining factor. But that doesn't mean that you need to be bullied. Doesn't mean that people should be making fun of you for that each and every day. There's whatever, you have some hygiene problems. And so one day, this kid, who was a year older than him, and he was much bigger than most of the kids, about, whatever, he was just bigger. And he took the kid in grade 9, he took his pizza that he got at lunch, and he threw it on the ground, and he made the kid eat it off the ground, and the kid was crying, and everything was super, super terrible. And that was one of the main instances of bullying that I experienced in high school, and it wasn't even direct. And my friend and I, this is a personal situation, and I do also feel somewhat bad about doing this, but it's one of those things. It's like social justice, but also where do I get off being the one to give out the judgment? And so I'll tell you the story. My friend and I heard that this had happened at lunch, so we went and found the kid that had done this to the younger kid. And across the road from the school, the school was right downtown, so there's lots of stores and everything around. And we took him to the parking lot of a very high trafficked area, and everybody could see what was happening. There were, let's say, I don't know how many kids, just a bunch of kids, big crowd around. And essentially what we did was, we didn't bully him. We just we pushed him, and we told him, like, hey man, you can't be going around, you can't be picking on kids younger than you. Like, look how this feels. Like, we're doing this to you right now. Like, this is obviously not okay. But we were doing it at the same time, so it was kind of unjustified. When I think about it in retrospect, it was a form of bullying in itself to show the bully that bullying was not okay. And so, bullying isn't okay. And I think that you should stand up for people. I don't think that we should have gone as far as to humiliate him. I don't think that we should have gone as far as to physically push him, because that's we didn't hit him or anything like that. We just pushed him around, and I don't think that we should have gone as far as to physically push him around. But we should have. I think the humiliation was fine. He shouldn't have humiliated the young kid, and he deserved the humiliation that he got. Hey, how's it going there, Arsenal Artistry? Thanks for joining the chat. Where are you going there? Say, greetings from the land of the newlywed and nearly dead Florida. Dang. Florida, eh? That's far away. Thanks for joining us. So, we're talking about bullying. We haven't even gotten to the story yet. I've just told you my own personal story. So, boy 14 fatally stabbed in front of his mother outside of Hamilton School. And why is this such a serious story? A, well, he was stabbed in front of his mother, which is absolutely wild. And B, this is a kid who was in high school who, by all reports, was being bullied, reported the bullying, and those bullies then retaliated, and in result, he lost his life. Therefore, this zero tolerance policy that schools apparently have really is not working now, is it? From what I've seen. When I was in school, this was a good number of years back, but I have younger brothers. They're 8 years younger than I am, and when they were in school, things were already so much different. People were bringing knives and guns to school. We live in a small town. I mean, come on. But it happens. It happens all over. It doesn't matter where you live. So let's get into the story. I'll read a bit of it and give you a little breakdown of what's going on. So, Hamilton police say a 14-year-old boy... Okay, we're not going to read this story, actually, because it gives you a breakdown as though you already know what's going on. 14-year-old fatally stabbed in front of his mother outside of Hamilton High School is the title of this story, coming out of CBC. A 14-year-old Hamilton student was fatally stabbed while his mother was with him outside Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School on Monday, police said. The teen was attacked just before 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time and died shortly after in hospital. Police have 3 suspects in custody and are searching for 2 more. In one of those in custody is also 14. Another is 18. So we'll get into that in a minute. Statement from the police. When I look at this, it's a complete disregard for human life, which is extremely concerning for people at such a young age, said Detective Sergeant Steve Bierzek in a news conference on Monday. This seems to be the detective that has been set onto the case. So, police responded around 1:23 p.m. to what was originally described as a serious assault and put Winston Churchill and 4 other area schools under lockdown. Just over 2 hours later, Hamilton police announced that the student had died. The community is in shock and our hearts are broken. Manny Figueredo, Director of Education at the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board, in a statement Monday evening. Hey there, how's it going there, dear Wonderboard? Dear Wonder Bear? Thanks for that compliment there, man. Our entire community shares in the grief and sadness of having lost a valued and loved student, he said. The victim's name has not yet been released. It has now been released, and we do know who the victim was. But we'll get into that as we go. School principal Marco Barzetti sent a letter home saying the school would have support staff on hand Tuesday to assist students. He encouraged anyone who is struggling with the tragedy to speak to him or their teacher. So the flags would be lowered for 3 days. Yeah, okay. But essentially, the whole point is that this kid got into an altercation after school and ended up being stabbed, right? So what is actually happening? Residents in the area are clearly shocked and clearly not happy with what has been going on. Thanks for joining the chat there, Justin Hansen. How's it going there? Thanks for joining us from Minnesota. Yeah, this is an absolutely wild story, and it's crazy that nobody's really talking about it too much, because it's not something that obviously these sort of things happen a lot, bullying and tragic incidents, but to nip it in the bud, okay? Canada is an area, and it doesn't matter where you're from, but if a tragic incident happens like this, it should be a big deal, and you should talk about it, because this is something that, this is the end result. When you let bullies get away with what's happening, and when you don't take action, these are the repercussions that can end up happening in the end. And so Alice Smith spoke with a woman she believes tried to help the young boy who passed away today. Smith says the woman couldn't stop crying. Smith says she also has a message for any kids who are afraid. So this is just like an old lady who lives down the road from the school, right? This is just like a regular Hamiltonian. Well, we'll listen to what she has to say.
If there's any kids around here, because they all go up the street for lunch, and they come, if any one of them need help or are afraid of something, they can come to my door, and I will let them in. And I will do what I can to help them. But this should not be happening. The kids should feel safe to go to school. Now, we have a young boy that's dead. And that really upset me.
And so, the kid should feel safe to go to school. That doesn't mean emotionally safe. That means physically safe. This kid should never have felt like he was in a position where his life was in physical danger. And that's absolutely mind-baffling to me. This is a school system that I am 28 years old. I should have kids by now. I may have kids within the next near future. And if I do, and they were put into this school system, this is the system that would be supposedly looking after them. How am I supposed to feel comfortable with that? Tell me that right now, Ontario government. You're supposed to be running for an election. Come on, let's see what you guys have to say about this sort of situation. But it really does get to me, the fact that this sort of thing is becoming so mainstream, and the youth are becoming so, they disregard not human life, but life in general, and the morality compass is it's varying into different areas. It's not quite as cut and dry as it used to be. But as I say, this should not be happening. Kids should feel safe to go to school, as we just saw, right? As the woman just was proclaiming. Lots of individuals in the community are outraged, like I've said, and they should be, right? It's a crazy situation. Not only the fact that this happened in front of his own mother. Imagine that. Imagine you were a parent and you had children and you couldn't even do anything to stop their bullies from attacking them. It's absolutely wild. So we'll get into the situation of the kids that have been taken into custody, because there are more updates. There are updates that have happened today. This happened actually just yesterday that it happened, and now all of a sudden, quickly, more updates. Before we get too much farther into it, if you'd like to help support the channel, as always, I'll put up the links for the Streamlabs. You want a message pop up on screen, as little as $1 donations, and you can have your message on the channel, as well as PayPal and Patreon if you do not like to have your self interjected into the stream. But I think it's a fun way to have everybody involved, so I'll throw those up there now, and we'll continue to go, guys. So four separate teens were put into custody over this, and this is the young man that ended up passing away, Stephen Brackey. As I said that his name wasn't released, Stephen Brackey Selvey, 14, has been identified as the teen who was fatally stabbed outside Sir Winston Churchill Secondary School in Hamilton on Monday, which is absolutely terrible. Hamilton police have arrested 2 more teens in connection with the stabbing death of students at The new arrests are of 2 16-year-olds, a male and a female, and both are in custody for the first-degree murder, and they have not been yet charged, but those arrests are being Those arrests bring the total number to 4 after an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old were arrested and charged with first-degree murder on Monday. All right, so 4 individuals in total were arrested in conjunction with this situation. He was attacked behind the high school just before 1:30 on Monday while he was with his mother. His death marks the city's 9th homicide in 2019. So, just to put in perspective, Canada, 9 homicides in 2019. It's not too good. This entire incident is disturbing. It's difficult to comprehend right now. To be honest with you, I can't imagine the way that the victim's family feels right now, said Detergent Sergeant Steve Berezik during a media update Tuesday afternoon. So this is a situation that's been literally plaguing the city, and I've heard it on CBC, like I've heard it on the radio and stuff, but I haven't heard any real mainstream outlets really talking about this too much. So I wanted to bring it up to the community, see what you guys had to say, and I'm going to pull up now just the press conference that was held earlier today. And yeah, exactly. And a press conference that was held up earlier today, and it'll give you a little bit of an update around what's happening, and then we'll go from there, guys.
Yesterday, the 16-year-old male and a 16-year-old female who were arrested have since been released unconditionally. We're continuing to work through the evidence, but we're not seeking any additional suspects in relation to Devin's death. An autopsy was conducted yesterday morning. This confirmed that Devin was killed as a result of a stab wound. The scene was released just after midnight this morning. So we have cleared that area. And there has been some discussion recently about a bike incident involving our victim. We are aware of this incident. And at this time, I can tell you that there is no evidence linking the accused in this stabbing and this homicide to the earlier September bike theft. A 14-year-old male and an 18-year-old male, both from Hamilton, have been charged with first-degree murder, and there is a court-ordered publication ban on releasing the name of the adult male accused, and under the Youth Criminal Justice Act, the youth cannot be identified. And again, if you have any further information to offer us, the police, I still ask that you contact Detective Mike McNaughton, who's here with me on the right. His phone number is 905-546-4123. Or, of course, Crime Stoppers remains an option. You can contact them at 1-800-222-8477 or submit your tips online to remain anonymous.
So, I want to throw that out there, especially because he gave out those numbers. If you have any information, obviously, I don't think many people that are watching this video will have been at the crime scene, but you never know, and so that's thrown out there. But as you saw, the 2 suspects had been released. Apparently, originally, what I had heard is that they had been being questioned about a conspiracy around doing this, as well as, I don't know. It absolutely baffles me, the fact that the whole bike situation is what is. I'll give you a breakdown there. The story being weaved there is essentially the family had reported a bike being stolen months back to the police, and people are tracing that back to saying that the perpetrators had exacted revenge for the bike being reported stolen. Although they're denying that, there's a lot of information to still come out. Although the mother is definitely pushing the narrative that her son was being bullied, and that the bullies are the ones that had exacted this situation. And so where we're at is a lot of hearsay until the final investigation and official info comes out. We won't really know what the story is, but there's a lot of information. Apparently there is video footage of the incident that was circulated on Facebook and or Twitter, on Snapchat. I haven't been able to find that footage yet, or I would bring it up for you, of course, But I'll link this hearing for you in the description below, because they ask questions for the next 15 minutes or so, and there are a lot of good questions that are asked. But it really just kind of grinds my gears. I feel you guys in the chat. If anybody did this, if I don't have any children, but when I do, and if they did, this would not be okay. This would not be a situation. The mother was okay. She was not injured as well in the attack. But, I mean, I could not, and I cannot handle. I don't know. I see. That's where these SJWs say, I just can't. Right? I just can't with this. But I'm going to pass the question over to you guys. What do you think? How do you feel? Hey, thanks for joining us in the chat there, killer baby. Yeah, you as well, Secure. But I'm questioning the way that the school board handled this situation. And the way that I feel is though perhaps there could have been more done. You know what I'm saying? Because the way that I see it is, as of right now, what is the narrative that's being spun is that this child, this 14-year-old boy, it depends on how you want to call it, a teen, a youth, this youth was being bullied. He went to his school. He told them that he was being bullied. His mother says that he would call her constantly and he would barely go to school. And yet, the school didn't do enough to separate these bullies or end this bullying in order to protect this man, child, teen, however you want to describe him, his life. Hey, thanks for joining us from New York there, bud. Yeah, like it's one of those situations where the school has the responsibility to keep the students safe, in my opinion. And I do not personally think that they did enough. I'd like to know what you have to say. I'd like to know what your feelings are and what your thoughts are around it. But I guess we'll listen to the statement from the mother, because she actually came out and she decided to talk about what had happened, not particularly the incident, but everything around it and perhaps the situations leading up to the event. And so we'll listen to that. I'll get your opinions, and I want to know what you have to say, because like I always say, this is the open debate. It's not just my channel. This is a channel for everybody here, and without the discussion, this doesn't work, right? So it's not just my opinion. This is for everybody. This is for everybody to come and have their voice heard, because I won't censor you, especially on the Discord. You can post whatever you want. You can say whatever you want, because I feel free speech is the absolute fundamental building block of what keeps us free. So if you want to dismantle bad ideas, go ahead and let your opinion be heard. But we're gonna get into the the statement by the mother, and we'll listen to what she has to say. And I want to hear what you have to say. All right? Thanks, guys.
He had a beautiful soul. He protected everybody. He stood up for everything that was wrong. He was just a very passionate kid.
I gotta respond to you there, Dear Wonder Bar, in the chat. It's our channel, right? So we should get we should all get a part of the money. But without you, this channel wouldn't make any money. So we do all make a part of the money. Thank you very much, man. There are a few others, and I appreciate you all as well. Dear Wonder Bar, you're number one donator. I appreciate you more than anybody. I appreciate everybody. Don't take that the wrong way. Dear Wonder Bar, he's been there since day one. He's on all my other channels as well. Check out the other channels. Come on, guys, hang out with me in the chat. All right, let's go.
He came to rescues with us. He helped me transport cats to. to vet appointments. We picked up cats. Like, he was there for the animals, he was there for people, he was just there. And now he's not. Like,
How have these past days been for you?
I have not slept since Monday morning at 6:30 when I got him up for school. And then when he called me to say that they were bothering him at the school, I went over there. And then my life fell apart.
That's how she ended up being at the school when that happened.
What was your son's best quality?
His goofiness. His random dancing in the kitchen with me. Our kickboxing play fights.
Those are good memories.
He was a good kid.
What's your most recent funny memory?
I don't know if I can say that on camera. We have a video. We were parking the car, and he was dancing to, I think it was Pony. And he climbed out the window, and he was on the roof of my car dancing to Pony in stripper moves.
Your daughter is pregnant right now.
Yes.
And he was, I hear, so excited to become an uncle.
I'm gonna respond in the chat to you there, dear Wonder Bear. You know, like, it's easy to say that, and it's easy to say that what you would do in the situation. Of course, I don't know if anybody's seen that video of, I think it's like a CCTV video where there's this woman, and she looks like she's like trying to stab a kid in the face, and then the father goes and chases her after, and she tries to stab him, and he doesn't do anything, and everybody says, well, I would have done this and I would have done that. But put in the situation, right, like, your instincts are put into play, and it's fight or flight. Some people don't have that instinct, and some people's instincts kick in a different way depending on the situation, and you never know what was happening. She was there, and the story keeps being spun that the child he passed away in front of her, but perhaps she wasn't necessarily like within eyesight. Maybe she was there to pick him up and she didn't actually see it happen. We don't actually know what happened, right? And just in general, right, it's a really terrible situation, you know, and it's easy to make judgments from an outside perspective, and that's fine as well. Your perspective is completely valid, but it's interesting to keep in mind that being thrust into this situation, you never know what you would necessarily do. You know, you can say you could do this and you would say you could do that, but actually being in the situation is completely different than a theoretical discussion, right? Oh, no. I understand having kids is a driving factor, especially like having that urge or that feeling of like protection. But it's a situation where and I completely feel you, you know, but you know, that's what I'm saying. You know, you'd fight to the death. You would do whatever you could. If you ended up losing your life because of it, that's on you, and I would do it. I'm completely there. But like I said, perhaps she didn't actually physically see it. She wasn't actually witnessing it, and that's just how the story's being spun because it sounds more dramatic. But either way, if she was there to pick him up, right? Like, I'm sure if you were there to pick your child up from school and something happened out of your eyesight and you didn't know what was happening, you would feel absolutely terrible that you weren't there to fix it, right? And so that's really all I'm saying. There's always more than just one perspective, but I feel you 100%. I would do everything in my power to stop this from happening. Thanks for joining us there, Obochide. Thanks for joining us.
He was.
Tell me about that and how that feels for not just you, but your daughter to lose that, for him not to be able to have that opportunity.
He lost all opportunities. He's never going to grow up. He's never going to get married. He's never going to know what it's like to be a father. He's going to miss out on Maisie's first everythings. devastated. She doesn't know how to cope with it either. But she's trying to be strong for me, and I gotta be strong for her.
She's being a rock.
She's the only child I have left. I've already lost 2. Like, this is not right.
Sharon, can you tell us a little bit more about how the school year had been going for her?
To hell. Second day of school, they were jumped and chased over to Huskies. And then that night, they jumped them to take Brody's bike and Devin's bike. And Devin told Brody and Zach to run, and he told the kid to take his bike and leave his friends alone. And they were struggling with the bike, and then the kid made a phone call, and then Devin let go of the bike and he ran. That's the heart of Devin. He saved his friends and left himself there. And then they arrested him ever since.
Had they been bothering him before, too? Before the bike incident?
No, it was the second day of high school. They didn't. He was new to the school. These are all older kids except the one.
How did he deal with it? How did he talk to you about it?
He missed a lot of class.
So she just said that it was just the second day of school. I saw you comment there if there was any other indicating factors as to why they would target him rather than anybody else, and if it was just the bike incident. The bike incident seems to be a very prominent reasoning behind this, but also from her description of her own child, he seems to be very flamboyant, perhaps even homosexual, and that could be also a contributing factor. There's nothing wrong with that, but it could also be a contributing factor. And even if he's not homosexual, he just seems, through her own description, he seems to be very flamboyant, outgoing, very eager to stand up for himself, and that's always a target, you know. That's always going to be someone who will be targeted by people who feel inferior and want to make themselves feel better by bringing somebody else down. And so it seems as though he was just kind of that type of kid, and through the pictures that you saw at 14 years old, like, obviously you're never usually that big, but he's not the biggest kid, you know. He's a pretty scrawny kid, so he's not going to be able to stand up for himself as well as some other people. It's just my opinion, but let me know what you guys think.
Go for some classes and then call me and I go pick him up. Or sometimes he just wouldn't go. He refused to go in the mornings.
And did you talk with the school about the bullying?
Yes.
How many times?
For a month we've been trying to get this dealt with.
Did they do anything?
They suspended the one kid, and then he was not supposed to be on school property, and then he showed up Monday on the school property knowing that Devin wouldn't go back into the school because he was there.
Sherry, what would you say to school boards here across the province about how important it is to actually step up and deal with bullying in a strong way?
Okay, I need to put this without swearing.
They've made policies that they need to follow. We don't think that they're following their own policies.
That is, it's just what they say. It's just to make people believe that the school, or all schools, not just that school, but all schools, have the same policies: zero tolerance and zero bullying, and everyone belongs. And it's not true. And no one's held accountable for it. It keeps happening. And then stuff like this happens.
Did the school board fail your son?
Everyone failed my son, even I did. I tried to save him and I couldn't get to him in time.
Did you want to speak about what happened that day?
No.
That's too late.
It's embedded on my eye. I can't.
Okay, yeah. And this is a sad story, and it's a situation like we've talked about. There's so many things, there's so many discussions around it. Was she able to get there in time, like she just said? No. It's something that's weighing on her mind. And I'm passing the question on to you guys. Like, how do you feel? How do you feel in the situation, right? Do you feel as though the school systems do enough? Do you think this is just a problem within the Ontario school system, within inner cities? Do you think that it's also a problem within rural areas? Have you ever experienced anything like this? I see some people in the chat there, like Shadow Radio, talking about some situations that he's had to deal with in the past. But have you ever had to deal with anything like this? And what would you do if you did have to deal with something like this? It is something that I think about because, like I said, I don't have kids yet. But if I was to have kids, this is something that I need to look into. How are the school systems compared to how they have been in the past, right? And I don't feel as though bullying is a huge thing, but as we see I don't feel as though bullying is a huge thing in every area, but as we see, predominantly it keeps growing, and there are stories that we see throughout the board. People are being bullied all over the world, and it is a huge issue. And the reason that I have such an issue with it, right, is because I didn't have to experience that too much growing up. People were respectful, even though there were disrespectful moments throughout my life. On average, people were taught to be respectful, and so like bullying was always seen as a bad thing. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the question over to you guys. Ask the question, how do you feel? Everything that we talked about. As this story continues to progress, I potentially will give you an update if you all want to know what's happening. But as it stands right now, essentially it feels as though a kid was being bullied. He went to the proper authorities. He went through all the avenues, and he was met with backlash that resulted in the loss of his life. So this whole zero tolerance policy really doesn't mean much in a world where nobody's doing anything. Nathan James was good. Yeah, kids are ruthless. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not really too happy with the school system. I'm not happy with the way that they handled the situation. There was definitely more that they could have done to intervene. There's more that they could do with counseling and getting these students help and getting them to discuss their problems and actually work through things instead of being on their own and having this mindset that, hey, guess what, this kid ratted on me, maybe I should just go out and stab him. Well, guess what, look what it resulted in. You're now probably going to jail. But these are my opinions. I also want to know what yours are. We're going to be discussing this in the chat below. We're going to be discussing it in the Discord. So I'll put there are links in the description of this video for the Discord if you want to join there. But I want you guys all to really have your voice heard, and I know that YouTube really censors the way that we talk, so I will never do that. But this is the open debate, a place for us all to get together and discuss topics like this. And so, with that being said, let me know what your opinion is. We'll be back perhaps later tonight, perhaps tomorrow. There is many topics to discuss, but I like hanging out with you. I like hearing what you have to say, and I like building the community larger and larger. And so, if you enjoy the content, you like what you see here, the best way to support the channel is to share the video, comment, engage, like, do all that sort of thing. I don't know if subscribing really does much anymore these days. I don't think you even get notifications. But sharing the videos with your friends exposes this content to individuals who may not necessarily see it on a daily basis or an average basis. The only people that normally see these videos are people that will already be looking up this type of content. And so for you to be sharing it is the best way for you to support this channel. With that being said, I'll leave you with the rest of this interview and the question around how do you feel about this situation? What would you do if this was your child? Hey, Nathan James, thank you very much for that. I'm going to tell you right now, as I always do at the end of the stream, if anybody ever donates through Super Chat, YouTube takes 30%. Oh, it's going to pop up. Did you put a message? You didn't even put a message. I'll tell you right now. Streamlabs or YouTube takes 30% of the super chats. They've never even paid me. If you want to go ahead and retract that donation, I have no qualms at all. You don't want to give your money to YouTube. I'll tell you that right now. If you ever want to donate, go ahead and support through Streamlabs. You can put a message up on screen and you can donate for as little as $1. Please go ahead and retract that message. Don't give your money to YouTube. I appreciate you more than anything, though. That's like the support is really something that helps me continue to go and continue to bring you content each and every day. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, Nathan James, that's what I'm telling you, man. So yeah, retract that shit. With that being said, hop on over on the Discord. We're going to be talking there. We're going to be talking in the chat below. But yeah, I just want to know your opinion. What would you do if it was your kid? What would you do if you saw this happening? And how do you feel about the situation? With that being said, my name's Elder. This has been the Open Debate. Be your own hero, kids.
I haven't slept. I haven't eaten. Every time I close my eyes, it's there. So I don't close my eyes. If I don't close my eyes, I can't relive it.
What do you want everyone to know about what has happened?
More people need to stand up. Stop being bystanders. There's no such thing as rats anymore. My son was a toothpick. And he stood up for people. No one could go near his friends with anything. Like, they couldn't call his friends names or nothing. Devin would shut it down. So he did not deserve this. Like, why was I the only person that had his back?
Thank you, Jerry.